give up, you have to be dead, or completely incapacitated.
There are forces at work in the cosmos that we cannot explain. For example, why do people keep listening to this?
Braille sur Sylvest knowledge is coming.
12 principles behind the Agile Manifesto. Let us go, son. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Boom, boom, boom. Welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. Boom, boom, boom. Deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference to the shorter timescale. Boom, boom, boom. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. Boom, boom, boom. Build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. Boom, boom, boom. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. Boom, boom, boom. Working software is the primary measure of progress. Boom, boom, boom. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. Boom, boom, boom. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. Boom, boom, boom. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. Boom, boom, boom. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. But boom, boom, but. Now. Agenda. Bank IT dead people. Dev oops I did it again. Dolly mop for ACCN job. Acronyms. Mouth.py. ASP.NET hardcore not. Trader Rich BB. AWS. But boom, but. Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, DHCP, is a client-server protocol that automatically provides an Internet Protocol, IP, host with its IP address and other related configuration information such as the subnet mask and default gateway. RFCs 2131 and 2132 define DHCP as an Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF, standard based on Bootstrap Protocol, BOOTP, a protocol with which DHCP shares many implementation details. DHCP allows hosts to obtain required TCP IP configuration information from a DHCP server. Why use DHCP? Every device on a TCP IP-based network must have a unique unicast IP address to access the network and its resources. Without DHCP, IP addresses for new computers or computers that are moved from one subnet to another must be configured manually. IP addresses for computers that are removed from the network must be manually reclaimed. With DHCP, this entire process is automated and managed centrally. The DHCP server maintains a pool of IP addresses and leases an address to any DHCP-enabled client when it starts up on the network. Because the IP addresses are dynamic, leased, rather than static, permanently assigned, addresses no longer in use are automatically returned to the pool for reallocation. The network administrator establishes DHCP servers that maintain TCP IP configuration information and provide address configuration to DHCP-enabled clients in the form of a lease offer. The DHCP server stores the configuration information in a database that includes 1. Valid TCP IP configuration parameters for all clients on the network. 2. Valid IP addresses, maintained in a pool for assignment to clients, as well as excluded addresses. 3. Reserved IP addresses associated with particular DHCP clients. This allows consistent assignment of a single IP address to a single DHCP client. 4. The lease duration, or the length of time for which the IP address can be used before a lease renewal is required. Also, a DHCP-enabled client, upon accepting a lease offer, receives 1. A valid IP address for the subnet to which it is connecting. 2. Requested DHCP options, which are additional parameters that a DHCP server is configured to assign to clients. Some examples of DHCP options are router, default gateway, DNS servers, and DNS domain name. So what are the benefits of DHCP? DHCP provides the following benefits. Reliable IP address configuration. DHCP minimizes configuration errors caused by manual IP address configuration, such as typographical errors, or address conflicts caused by the assignment of an IP address to more than one computer at the same time. Reduced network administration. DHCP includes the following features to reduce network administration. 1. Centralized and automated TCP/IP configuration. 2. The ability to define TCP/IP configurations from a central location. 3. The ability to assign a full range of additional TCP/IP configuration values by means of DHCP options. 4. The efficient handling of IP address changes for clients that must be updated frequently, such as those for portable devices that move to different locations on a wireless network. 5. The forwarding of initial DHCP messages by using a DHCP relay agent, which eliminates the need for a DHCP server on every subnet. But. Let's imagine you are building an online store that uses the microservice architecture pattern and that you are implementing the product details page. You need to develop multiple versions of the product details user interface. 1. HTML5 JavaScript-based UI for desktop and mobile browsers. HTML is generated by a server-side web application. 2. Native Android and iPhone clients. These clients interact with the server via REST APIs. In addition, the online store must expose product details via a REST API for use by third-party applications. A product details UI can display a lot of information about a product. For example, the Amazon.com details page for Pojos in action displays. 1. Basic information about the book such as title, author, price, etc. 2. Your purchase history for the book. 3. Availability. 4. Buying options. 5. Other items that are frequently bought with this book. 6. Other items bought by customers who bought this book. 7. Customer reviews. 8. Sellers ranking. Since the online store uses the microservice architecture pattern, the product details data is spread over multiple services. For example, 1. Product info service, basic information about the product such as title, author. 2. Pricing service, product price. 3. Order service, purchase history for product. 4. Inventory service, product availability. 5. Review service, customer reviews. Consequently, the code that displays the product details needs to fetch information from all of these services. Problem. How do the clients of a microservices-based application access the individual services? Forces. 1. The granularity of APIs provided by microservices is often different than what a client needs. Microservices typically provide fine-grained APIs, which means that clients need to interact with multiple services. For example, as described above, a client needing the details for a product needs to fetch data from numerous services. 2. Different clients need different data. For example, the desktop browser version of a product details page desktop is typically more elaborate than the mobile version. 3. Network performance is different for different types of clients. For example, a mobile network is typically much slower and has much higher latency than a non-mobile network. And, of course, anyone is much slower than a LAN. This means that a native mobile client uses a network that has very different performance characteristics than a LAN used by a server-side web application. The server-side web application can make multiple requests to back-end services without impacting the user experience, whereas a mobile client can only make a few. 4. The number of service instances and their locations, host plus port, changes dynamically. 5. Partitioning into services can change over time and should be hidden from clients. 6. Services might use a diverse set of protocols, some of which might not be web-friendly. Solution. Implement an API gateway that is the single entry point for all clients. The API gateway handles requests in one of two ways. Some requests are simply proxied/routed to the appropriate service. It handles other requests by fanning out to multiple services. Rather than provide a one-size-fits-all style API, the API gateway can expose a different API for each client. For example, the Netflix API gateway runs client-specific adapter code that provides each client with an API that's best suited to its requirements. The API gateway might also implement security, for example verify that the client is authorized to perform the request. Variation, backends for frontends. A variation of this pattern is the backends for frontends pattern. It defines a separate API gateway for each kind of client. In this example, there are 3 kinds of clients: web application, mobile application, and external third-party application. There are 3 different API gateways. Each one provides an API for its client. Examples: Netflix API gateway. A simple Java/Spring API gateway from the money transfer example application. Resulting context. Using an API gateway has the following benefits. Insulates the clients from how the application is partitioned into microservices. Insulates the clients from the problem of determining locations of service instances. Provides the optimal API for each client. Reduces the number of requests/round trips. For example, the API gateway enables clients to retrieve data from multiple services with a single round trip. Fewer requests. Also means less overhead and improves the user experience. An API gateway is essential for mobile applications. Simplifies the client by moving logic for calling multiple services from the client to API gateway. Translates from a standard public web-friendly API protocol to whatever protocols are used internally. The API gateway pattern has some drawbacks. Increased complexity. The API gateway is yet another moving part that must be developed, deployed and managed. Increased response time due to the additional network hop through the API gateway. However, for most applications the cost of an extra round trip is insignificant. Issues. How implement the API gateway? An event-driven/reactive approach is best if it must scale to handle high loads. On the JVM, NIO-based libraries such as net3, Spring Reactor, etc. make sense. Node.js is another option. Related patterns. The microservice architecture pattern creates the need for this pattern. The API gateway must use either the client-side discovery pattern or server-side discovery pattern to route requests to available service instances. The API gateway may authenticate the user and pass an access token containing information about the user to the services. An API gateway will use a circuit breaker to invoke services. An API gateway often implements the API composition pattern. Known uses. Netflix API gateway. Example application. See the API gateway that part of my microservices patterns example application. It's implemented using Spring Cloud Gateway. But. DevOps process. Developing modern applications requires different processes than the approaches of the past. Many teams use agile approaches to software development. For these teams, DevOps is not an afterthought. In fact, customer satisfaction through early and continuous software delivery is the first of 12 principles in the Agile Manifesto. That's why continuous integration and continuous deployment, C/CD, is so important to DevOps teams. But just changing your development and operations processes isn't enough. You'll need to apply systems thinking to really optimize the way you deliver software. This means DevOps will lead to changes in the business units that request dev work and in the groups that support the end users. A continuous cycle of feedback from end users to the business is the key. Your process will need to change beyond how you do the work. It's inevitable that what work you do will change too. DevOps isn't just about speeding up creation of the same old monolithic software, it's about creating new kinds of software, better suited to this cadence of continuous delivery. That's why DevOps teams will often build their software using a microservices architecture and link these services together with APIs. Teams deliver faster by focusing on creating smaller pieces of functionality, so you'll have to focus on how those services and APIs are managed and have a strategy, like agile integration, for bringing it all together. Making these kinds of changes can take a lot of effort, but with the right technology you can get started right away. Automation can help you speed up your processes, and eventually migrate your DevOps workloads to the cloud. An IDC study once shows that 85% of IT leaders say automation is critical to their DevOps strategy. That's because automation lets an infrastructure withstand the constant code changes that come with DevOps. And it allows environments to continuously scale with ease. Automation helps your smartest people do the most important things by lifting the burden of mundane and repetitive tasks. Our experts can help your organization develop the practices, tools, and culture needed to more efficiently modernize existing applications and to build new ones. But. Subnetting and VLSM. Understanding subnetting. So, son, you subnet a network ID to break the single logical network address into multiple logical network addresses so that you can assign a logical network ID and related addresses to each physical network segment on your network to each physical network segment on your network. In order to do this, you have to manipulate the subnet mask at the bit level and essentially take host bits away and convert them to subnet bits. I will show you with my words how to subnet Class A, Class B, and Class C network addresses, even if they do not exist. Did I told you that they do not exist? Yeah. You are new to subnetting. The best way to learn it is to perform each calculation on a blank piece of Shy-T. Nah, son. Anyway. Subnetting is one of those topics that most IT professionals tend to avoid because of how tedious it is to sit down and calculate the required information to configure newly created subnets. No Shy-T. But generally you will not be configuring new networks. Unless you will be working in some man-pap type of amazingly big, sarcasm, organization. But. Day what? Day 16. LSA, link state advertisements. LTE, long-term evolution. LWAPP, lightweight access point protocol. MAS, mobility as a service. MAC, media access control or medium access control. MAN, metropolitan area network. But. Math Pi, nagging fish, Python operators, data manipulation tools, arithmetic operators, multiplication. An asterisk sign is a multiplication operator. A slash sign is a divisional operator. So you should see that there is an exception to the rule. The result produced by the division operator is always a float, regardless of whether or not the result seems to be a float at first glance. It might look like a pure integer, but it is not. Is this a problem? Yes, son, it is. It happens sometimes that you really need a division that provides an integer value, not a float. Amazing, Python, can help us with that. Behold. Integer division operator. A double slash sign is an integer divisional operator. It differs from the standard slash operator in two details. First, its result lacks the fractional part. It is absent, for integers, or is always equal to 0, for floats. This means that the results are always rounded. Second, it conforms to the integer versus float rule. Meaning, integer by integer division gives an integer result. All other cases produce floats. The result of integer division is always rounded to the nearest integer value that is less than the real, not rounded, result. This is very important, son. This, rounding always goes to the lesser integer. Boom. So if you have minus 1.5, the rounding will be minus 2.0, aka minus 2.0 is lesser than minus 1.5, right? Duh. But. ASP.NET Core not. But. Trader baby. Money market instrumentals. Eurodollars. What is the eurodollar? The term eurodollar refers to US dollar denominated deposits at foreign banks or at the overseas branches of American banks. Because they are held outside the United States, eurodollars are not subject to regulation by the Federal Reserve Board, including reserve requirements. Dollar-denominated deposits not subject to US banking regulations were originally held almost exclusively in Europe, hence, the name eurodollar. Now, they are also widely held in branches or quoted in the Bahamas and the Cayman Islands. Understanding the eurodollar. The fact that the eurodollar market is relatively free of regulation means such deposits can pay higher interest. Their offshore location makes them subject to political and economic risk in the country of their domicile. However, most branches where the deposits are housed are in very stable locations. The eurodollar market is one of the world's primary international capital markets. They require a steady supply of depositors putting their money into foreign banks. These Eurodollar banks may have problems with their liquidity if the supply of deposits drops/deposits from overnight out to a weaker priced based on the Fed funds rate. Prices for longer maturities are based on the corresponding London interbank offered rate, LIBOR. Eurodollar deposits are quite large. They are armed by professional counterparties for a minimum of $100,000 and generally for more than $5 million. It is not uncommon for a bank to accept a single deposit of $500 million or more in the overnight market. A 2014 study by the Federal Reserve Bank showed an average daily volume in the market of $140 billion. Most transactions in the Eurodollar market are overnight, which means they mature on the next business day. With weekends and holidays, an overnight transaction can take as long as 4 days. The transactions usually start on the same day they are executed, with money paid between banks via the Fedwire and chip systems. Eurodollar transactions with maturities greater than 6 months are usually done as certificates of deposits, CDs, for which there is also a limited secondary market. History of Eurodollar. The Eurodollar market dates back to the period after World War II. Much of Europe was devastated by the war, and the United States provided funds via the Marshall Plan to rebuild the continent. This led to wide circulation of dollars overseas, and the development of a separate, less regulated market for the deposit of those funds. Unlike domestic US deposits, the funds are not subject to the Federal Reserve Bank's reserve requirements. They are also not covered by FDIC insurance. This results in higher interest rate for Eurodollars. Many American banks have offshore branches, usually in the Caribbean, through which they accept Eurodollar deposits. European banks are also active in the market. The transactions for Caribbean branches of US banks are generally executed by traders physically situated in US dealing rooms, and the money is on load to fund domestic and international operations. But. Question: which tasks require the use of the AWS account root user? Answer: changing the account name. And changing AWS support plans. Question: which AWS service can a company use to discover and protect sensitive data that is stored in Amazon S3 buckets? Answer: Amazon Macy. Question: which benefits can a company gain by deploying a relational database on Amazon RDS instead of Amazon EC2? Answer: automated backups. And software patching. Question: company is planning to deploy an application with a relational database on AWS. The application layer requires access to the database instance's operating system in order to run scripts. The company prefer to keep management overhead to a minimum. Which deployment should be used for the database? Answer: Amazon EC2. Question: customers using AWS services must patch operating systems on which of the following services? Answer: Amazon EC2. Question: which AWS feature can be used to launch a pre-configured Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud (EC2) instance? Answer: Amazon Machine Image (AMI). Question: which of the following AWS features or services can be used to provide root storage volumes for Amazon EC2 instances? Answer: Amazon Elastic Block Store (EBS). Question: which AWS service or feature can assist with protecting a website that is hosted outside of AWS? Answer: AWS Web Application Firewall, WAF. Question: which AWS service can a team use to deploy infrastructure on AWS using familiar programming languages? Answer: AWS Cloud Development Kit, AWS CDK. Question: when running applications in the AWS cloud, which common tasks can AWS manage on behalf of their customers? Answer: patching database software. And taking a backup of a database application security testing.
There's nothing wrong with that. Tripping, yeah, we all lose track. I wouldn't mind it if I find it.